construction of reinforced cement concrete. Okay, so the first one was the design philosophy. The first one was the working stress method or allowable stress method, allowable stress design. This was the first introduced design philosophy in case of the reinforced concrete design. That is, when they started the design of concrete structures, RC structures, the first philosophy or the first design philosophy which existed was the working stress method. So we had code in the working stress method, but later on it got updated. So the next one is the ultimate load theory, ultimate load method. And the last one or the current one is the limit state method. So your focus will be mainly on design by limit state method, and you need to understand some basics of your working stress method, because the water tank and all those things are being constructed in India still using working stress method. There is no need of studying this ultimate limit load method. If you want, if you are that eager to study, you can refer some textbooks. I have provided you some textbooks. You can refer that textbook and you can understand the basic concepts of this ultimate load method. So here our scope will be to for you to understand. I'll make you understand some basics of this working stress method. There is no design involved in this. You just need to understand some of the basics of the working stress method, and you will have a detailed study, and the designing part will all be consisting of this limit state method. Okay, so can I move to the next slide? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So we'll move to the next one. That is the first one. That is your working stress method, commonly called as WSM, working stress method. This is provided in Annex B, of your IS 456, Annex B of your IS 456, Annex B of the IS 456 2000. This is provided in IS 456 2000 Annex B. You can see that if you go through that, you can see, because earlier there was one code IS 456 for working stress method. Later they included all those things into Annex B. It was the earliest one. It was introduced in the 20th century, starting of the 20th century, and this WSM, working stress method, actual stresses developed due to working load, and dead load is, excuse me one second, okay. Actual stresses in working stress, I am actually at my home, that's why, sorry for the inconvenience, okay. In working stress method, the actual stress developed due to actual working loads is considered. That is, whatever load is acting on the structure, I repeat, whatever load is acting on the structure is directly taken for the design purpose. We will not consider, if you are applying a 100 kilonewton load, that 100 kilonewton load will be used for the design. The 100 kilonewton load will be used for the design. So can you tell me what is the problem in this? Can someone tell me what is the problem in this? As if, can you tell me that what is the problem in this?
Unexpected loads design.
There occurs some load which is higher than this 100 kilonewton. There occurs some unexpected load. Then what will happen? The structure will fail, isn't it? Yeah, that is the problem with this working stress method, because they will consider this. See, this is very important. See, this actual stresses, that is the actual load coming due to applied load, is considered for the design. Now, in WSM, the permissible stresses in concrete and steel are obtained by applying a factor of safety to the characteristic strength value. That is, what we do is, suppose I'll give an example. Like if I'll take Suraj. Okay, Suraj can hold a weight of 50 kilogram. Okay, his ultimate. Yeah, this is an example, Suraj. You can off your mic. Okay, if he can hold a weight of 50 kilogram. Okay, his maximum capability for holding is 50 kilogram. So what we do is, we will assume that is the maximum strength or the maximum weight he can take is 50, but I will allow him only what? A weight of 20. I will assume that he can take only 20. That is, I will decrease his, for the design purpose, I will decrease his strength. I will show that he can take only 20, but actually what he can take up to 50. That is, we will limit the strength of the material, or we will, in order for the design purpose, we will limit the strength of the material to a lower value, such that there won't occur any problem. That is, for the load, we will consider the same as whatever is happening, but for the material, for the concrete and steel, what will I do? I will I will divide it by, or I will apply a factor of safety. I will apply a factor of safety, and as a result, the strength of the material will be reduced. Okay, that is, the Suresh has actually got a capability of taking 50 kilograms, but I will, for the design purpose, I will say that he can take only what, 50 kilograms. For the same thing, we will allot for the material also. For steel, if it is having a strength of 450 Newton per mm square, I will tell that it's not having 415. It will take only up to what, some value of 230. After that, if I am telling that, they will tell that steel has failed in what tension. Similarly, for concrete, if it is having a strength of 20 Newton per mm square, I will tell that it will take only what, up to 6 Newton per mm square. It won't take much. So what is the problem in this? If I'm drastically reducing the strength of the material, Sri Lakshmi, can you tell what is the problem in this? If I'm drastically reducing the strength of the material, what is happening? What will happen? Sri Lakshmi, if you are hearing, can you please tell me?
More materials will be used.
Large amount of material will be used, and which will be highly uneconomical for the client or for the design purpose. If you are reducing the strength of the material to a larger extent, the material consumption will be very much high, isn't it? The material consumption will be very much high. So what we do is, next one, the design accordance with the theory of bending, both obeying Hooke's law. That is, we will assume that both the steel and concrete are obeying what, Hooke's law. That is, it will be linearly, the stress strain curve is what, linearly varying. So these are some of the assumptions made in the WSM and his working stress method. You can see these assumptions in Annex B of your IS 456. It is written there. If it is asked for your exams, you can write from there, but you need to understand the basics behind these assumptions. The first one is the length of the members remains same during bending. That is, the deformation is very small in comparison to the length. That is, if I am having a beam, if I am having a simply supported beam like this, compared to the length, the deformation will be, having the deformation compared to the length, this deformation, if I'm telling as delta, this delta will be very small. So we'll be neglecting that deformation is very small in comparison to the length. That is the first assumption in your WSM. The next one, a section plane before bending remains plane after bending. This is your basic assumption in your theory of bending. Can you tell me what is the real meaning of this? A section plane before bending remains plane after bending. A section before plane remains plane after bending. Najma, can you tell me that? What is the meaning of this? A section plane before bending remains plane after bending. What does that convey to you? You have studied this in a MOS. Najma, is she there? Okay, I think she's not there. Then yeah, Arjun. Arjun, can you tell me what is the meaning of this? A section plane before bending remains plane after bending. Are you able to hear me?
Yes,
Arjun. Yes, Arjun.
yes, yes.
What does that mean? A section plane before bending remains plane after bending.
I think,
Someone please comment. Yeah, Arjun, yeah, you can continue, please.
there is no change in the length even after we are bending the, for example, if you are bending a beam.
No, that's not the thing. It means that if I'm taking a section, the strain will be linearly varying. That is, a plane section, if I'm considering a plane section, if I'm taking a section from here, if it is bending like this, suppose I'm applying a load, it is bending like this. Okay, that is, the neutral axis will be here. The neutral axis will be here like this. The neutral axis will be here. It's not seen. Okay, I'll draw neutral axis like. So if I'm taking a section here and I'm taking a section here, the strain variation will be linear. That is, at the neutral axis, the strain or the deformation of the strain is 0, and towards its extreme ends, the variation will be what? The variation will be increasing. That is, at the extreme fiber, you will have the extreme strain, and the extreme fiber at the top, you will have the extreme compression. Which means, from the section before and after, the strain variation will be what? Linear. That is the basic assumption of your this WSM. That is a section plane before bending remains plane after bending. Have you understood this? Have you understood? That is the strain variation. This you have studied in our MOS, very basics of your theory of bending. Is it okay? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Next one, that is your the bond between steel and concrete is perfectly within the elastic limit. That is, it obeys the Hooke's law. Whenever you are applying a law, the strain and stress variation will be linear. The modular ratio, what do you mean by modular ratio? That is your ES by EC, which is used for the calculation purpose of your in your WSM, that is your working stress method. And the code suggests the value for your modular ratio as 280 by, it gives the value as 280 by 3 sigma C calculated. Sigma C allowable, sorry, sigma C allowable. This value of your sigma C allowable is being provided in your Annex B of your IS 456. You could get this value, and this modular ratio is used for the design purpose, and that design purpose you don't have any significance because you are not using the design of this design using this WSM, so it's fine for you guys. This is available. The sigma C allowable is the allowable compressive stress in Newton per mm square. It is available in your Annex B of IS 456. You can see that. And the calculation part only we require this modular ratio. So that is one of the assumption, because it's not ES by EC. They have given some value for modular ratio as 280 by 3 sigma C allowable. Okay. The next one, the tensile strength of the concrete is ignored. Even though the concrete is very poor in tension, it has a minimum value for taking tension. It has a minimum capacity to take tension. Can you tell me? You might have studied this in your. MOS. The minimum tensile strength the concrete can take. Can you tell me what is this value? Or if you haven't studied, you will study in the later parts. You will study in the later parts. The minimum tensile strength the concrete can take, according to LSM, is tensile strength or the flexural strength of concrete is 0.7 root FCK. This much value, I'll tell you what is FCK and all. This much value of strength or tensile strength the concrete can take. Only after this value, but this value is very, very small. Only after this value the concrete will fail. And also you can imagine if you are having a concrete beam like this, RC beam like this, okay, this is your neutral axis. I'm applying a load. This is your neutral axis. I'm applying a load. This is going to bend like this, right? This is going to bend like this, right? So if I am drawing, can you see here if I'm drawing here at the bottom?
Yes, sir.
If I'm drawing the, is it yes or no? If I'm drawing the neutral axis like this area will be completely under compression, right? Isn't it? Due to this applied load, this top area will be completely under compression, and this bottom area, if I'm providing a reinforcement like this, if I'm providing a reinforcement bar like this, I'm denoting it in this way. I'm providing a reinforcement bar like this, and this area will be under tension. The neutral, this is a neutral axis. The area above the neutral axis will be under compression, and the area below the neutral axis will be under tension, isn't it? This now you will understand. If you have seen the last video, you will understand this. Is it okay? The layer above the neutral axis will be under compression, and the layer below the neutral axis will be under tension. According to WSM, that is your working stress method, the tensile stress taken by the concrete here, the tensile stress, this concrete which is being here is taking some tensile stress, is completely ignored. Okay. Now the next one, the concrete is elastic. That is, the stress in concrete varies linearly from 0 at the neutral axis to a maximum at the extreme fiber. That is, they will assume that the concrete is obeying what? Hooke's law. The concrete is obeying Hooke's law. Is it okay up to here? These are the assumptions in your design of structure by working stress method, that is working stress design philosophy. Yes. Okay. The next is, if I'm taking the stress strain curve for you, if I'm drawing the stress strain curve for you, concrete and or the RC structure, that is, this is a strain variation as your first assumption. That is what? second assumption, that is a section plane before bending remains plane after bending, which means the strain variation, the strain variation is linear. The strain variation is linear. That is, this section will be having the maximum compressive strain, and this will be having maximum tensile, and corresponding to steel, I will take it as ET, the maximum tensile stress in the steel, and we will not consider this portion because this is being taken by the concrete. We will consider up to the level of what? We will consider up to the level of steel. At the level of steel, you are having the tensile stress or the tensile strain as ET, and at the concrete, the maximum compression strain EC. I'll take it as EC. Okay, so according to your theory of your assumption in WSM, you have your plane section before bending and after bending as plane, so the linear variation of strain is seen there. Now, if I'm coming to the stress variation, the whole tensile stress, I'm assuming that the tensile strength of concrete is ignored, which means the whole tensile stress which is being developed due to the application of this load, will be taken care by the reinforcement. That is, the reinforcement will take the entire stress. This reinforcement will take the entire stress which is coming due to the tensile force, and that will be taken by the reinforcement. Rest, the compression which is coming above the neutral axis, will be taken care by the concrete. And at the beginning, they told the concrete is elastic. That is, the stress in concrete varies linearly from 0 at the neutral axis. See here, stress in concrete varies linearly from 0 to the neutral axis to a maximum at the extreme fiber. That is, the variation of your stress in concrete is linear, and that you can say as this is the allowable. You can see this is the allowable, and that value for your allowable, sigma C allowable, is 0.33, approximately 0.33 FCK. You will get the value for this sigma C allowable in annex B for the different value for your FCK. For different value for FCK, you'll get the value for sigma C allowable, and approximately the value is 0.33 FCK. That is, if you have the allowable capacity FCK value as the characteristic strength, then the allowable is only 0.33 FCK. So, as an example, if you have FCK as 100 Newton per mm square, that much is the capacity of your concrete, but you will consider only what? 33 Newton per mm square as the maximum capacity or the stress carrying capacity of your concrete, and this will be acting at a point 1 by 3 of your neutral axis. If I'm taking the depth of the neutral axis from the compression side as XU, if I'm noting the depth of the neutral axis as 1 by 1 from the extreme compression fiber as XU, then the point of application of this load or the compressive load will be 1 by 3 XU, isn't it? And this 1 by 3 XU, you can see the compressive force is acting in this direction, the tensile force is acting in this direction, which will produce an opposite moment to the applied load, and which will keep the reinforced structure or the element in equilibrium. So the distance between these two action of force is called as lever arm. This action of force is called as lever arm. Okay, that is the application of your tensile force and the compressive force. The distance between this is called as your lever arm. Is it okay for you? What is the stress strain variation in working stress method? Is it okay for you? Should I repeat it? Should I repeat this?
Yes, sir. Repeat.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It is from your basic assumption. You have the plane section remains plane before and after bending, which means your strain variation is linear, and the strain is maximum at your compression side, that is epsilon C, and the strain maximum at the tension side, which is taken by the reinforcement, is epsilon T. So based on that, you'll get the strain variation for your WSM, that is, which is linearly varying. Now coming to the stress variation, according to your assumption, the entire stress, tensile stress, is taken by the steel, because you have the assumption the tensile strength of concrete is ignored, which means whatever tensile stress is coming, it is taken completely by your reinforcement alone, because we are ignoring this tensile stress which is being taken by the concrete. So if I draw the tensile stress diagram, it is a single point arrow which is being taken entirely by your reinforcement. Now coming to the compression side, the compression is taken by the concrete. So here if you see the assumption the concrete is elastic, that is the stress in concrete varies linearly from zero to a maximum at the extreme fiber. So if you see that the strain variation, or sorry, stress variation is linear, and the allowable stress, as I told you before, the allowable stress here, you could see the allowable stress is what you can see here, the allowable in WSM. In WSM, the strength of the permissible strength of concrete and steel is obtained by applying a factor of safety. See here, it's obtained by applying a factor of safety, which means we will reduce the strength of the material to a larger extent. We will reduce the strength of material to a larger extent, and that is your sigma C allowable, which is given by your IS 456 as approximately 0.33 FCK. This value of sigma C allowable depends on the value of your FCK. Based on the FCK value, you will get the value for your sigma C allowable. You can see that in your IS 456 and XB, and that will be acting at a distance of 1/3 XU. The distance between those two is called as your the action of point of application of those two forces, that is your tensile force and compressive force, is called as your lever arm. Is it okay for everyone? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We'll
Yes,
move
sir.
on to the next one. We'll move on to the next one, that is your drawbacks in the working stress method. Now, I think I have discussed almost all the drawbacks in the working stress method, but still I'll go through one each of this. That is the first one: the concrete is not elastic, and inelastic behavior starts at the beginning itself. That is, when you draw the stress strain curve for concrete, at the starting itself, it is not elastic. That is, it's not obeying Hooke's law. From the starting itself, we'll discuss this later. That is, if you're drawing the stress strain curve for concrete after the compression testing, from the initial itself, it is parabolic. From the initial point itself, it is parabolic. That is, it's not obeying Hooke's law. That was the first drawback of this working stress method, because the working stress method assumed that the stress varies linearly in the strain. That is, it is obeying Hooke's law, but it is not obeying Hooke's law from the beginning itself. In case of concrete, okay, I'm telling in case of concrete. The next one, it is difficult to account the effect of creep, shrinkage, stress concentration, and other secondary effects during the calculation of elastic stresses. That is, the creep, shrinkage, and all those things come into act after some time of the after construction. It is a long-term process, the creep, shrinkage, and all those things. So that was not taken into account during the design or using working stress method. That is the effect of creep, the concentration of certain load, stresses, shrinkage. Those things were not considered in the design part using WSM, and this will be taken care when we are designing using the limit state method. The next one, since the factor of safety is on stress, there is no way to account for different degrees of uncertainty associated with different types of load. That is what Asif told at the beginning. If you are having a load which is higher than the design load, there is no factors, there is no concern, or there is no way of it's not taken into account the higher load that is being coming. That is, we will design it for a working load. If a load which is coming higher than that comes, there is no design, or there is no design way for that. Okay. The next one is the working stress method will lead to a large factor of safety and oversight section, thus reducing the design economy. That is, it will, since the material property is drastically reduced, what happens? The materials used will be very much high, and as a result, it will be highly uneconomical. And the tensile strength of the concrete is ignored. We know that the concrete is having some smaller value of tensile strength, and that value is not considered here. It's also given a highly uneconomical section. So these are the drawbacks of your working stress method. Is it okay? So this much basics understanding you require in the working stress method. If you want more, you can read some textbooks. It will be easy for you if you read some textbook. There are design problems based on working stress method. There are some textbooks which issued before 2000. You can read those textbooks. There are problems based on this working stress method. If you are that much keen to understand the very much basics of your working stress method, you can go through some design problems. It will be easy for you. So can I continue to the next one? Can I continue to the next one?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Next one is the limit state method of design, and this is the very important one in your design of RC structures, and currently this is being practiced in India. That is the limit state method design of RC structures. Okay, so here in limit state method, whatever drawbacks you had in your working stress method is being taken care in this limit state method. There is the uncertainty of both materials and load can be considered realistically. That is, we will apply a factor safety for material as well as we will apply a factor safety for the load also. That is, if 100 kilonewtons is the design load, suppose the load sometimes the load may be 110, then also the structure will be safe. We will account or we will take care of that load, the uncertain load that is coming on the structure also, in case of in this limit state design of structures. Then the different limit state are considered. That is, there are two different limit state. That is, first one is your limit state of collapse and limit state of serviceability. That is, there may be two cases. There may be two cases in a structure to fail. The first one is limit state of collapse. The structure completely fails in limit state of collapse. The structure completely fails in limit state of collapse. But the second one is the limit state of serviceability. The limit state of serviceability. The structure won't collapse. There won't be any collapse to the structure, and the structure is still usable. That is, if there occurred some crack. If there occurred some crack, will you say that the structure is not usable? You will do what? You will do the repair of that, right? If there occurred some fire inside your building, after the fire being cut off, what you will do? You need to do some repair, and still the structure is usable. If there occurred some excessive deflection, there occurs some excessive deflection, then you will try to reduce that deflection, and you will again use the structure. But in limit state of collapse, if collapse means what? The structure is not usable after reaching this limit state of collapse, and the structure can be made usable even if it reaches what? Limit state of serviceability. That is, I can summarize it as the structure must be fit to perform its function satisfactorily during its service lifespan. That is, whatever is the intent of the structure, it should perform its function properly. The condition or the state at which the structure or part of a structure becomes unfit for its use is called as limit state. That is, if the structure is not further usable, then that particular point or particular state is called as the limit state. And there are mainly two states of limit state. That is, collapse, limit state of collapse, and limit state of serviceability. This limit state of collapse means suppose there occurs some flexure. Flexure means what? The bending stress, bending tensile stress occurred and the structure failed. At that time, structure failure take place, and that is the limit state of collapse. That is an extreme end. After that, if we do any repair work or nothing, it won't work. We will say that the structure has collapsed. In compression, suppose I am applying a compressive load to a column, it fails by crushing. It reaches its maximum compressive stress and it fails by crushing. Then we say that the structure has failed in limit state of collapse, or this complete use of the structure is being done. So we need to either reconstruct or we need to construct another structure, because there is no repair or retrofitting available for a limit state of collapse. Then shear, if the structure fails in shear, then we will say that it has reached its limit state of collapse. When the structure fails in torsion, that is when over twisting takes place, like the beams which is present at the extreme periphery of your building, those are having high torsion. And if the structure fails in torsion also, we will say that it has reached its limit state of collapse. And the second one, I told you, limit state of serviceability. Limit state of serviceability means what? Limit state of serviceability means what? If occurs enough deflection, or if there is enough cracking, if there is vibration, excess vibration, the crack due to vibration, etc. There occurred fire. These things, even if that occurred, there is a chance for the structure to be made useful again. It hasn't reached its limit state of collapse. So is there any doubt up to here? Can you tell me, is there any doubt in limit state? Have you understood this limit state of collapse and limit state of serviceability?
Yes.
Any doubt, you can ask me now. It will be useful for the class if you have any doubt. So can I continue? So I will continue. That is the next one. That is, I'll just summarize it. That is the limit state. There are two types of limit state. That is limit state of collapse, limit state of serviceability. So if the structure reaches limit state of collapse, which means that then further use of the structure is not possible. That is, it deals with the strength and stability of the structure under maximum design load. That is, it deals with the strength and stability. For if you reach the limit state of collapse, then further strength and stability of the structure is lost and it cannot be further used. But in case of serviceability, the name itself says serviceability, serviceable. It says that it deals with the deflection and cracking under service loads, durability under working environment, stability, fire resistance, etc. That is, if it reaches limited serviceability, there is a hope or there is a chance for the section to be redesigned or retrofitting of the structure is possible even after reaching its serviceability. So I hope it's okay for you guys. Is it okay? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Just read through whatever things I said. Okay, all relevant limit state must be considered in the design to make sure an adequate degree of safety and serviceability. That is, when we are designing a structure, we should make sure that the structure is very much safe for limit state of collapse, as well as the structure is safe for limit state of serviceability. When considering the limit state of collapse, the structure should not fail in what? Flexure. The structure should not fail in what? The structure should not fail in shear. The structure should not fail in compression. The structure should not fail in torsion. And when considering the limit state of serviceability under the serviceable loads, I'll explain what is a serviceable load. Under the serviceable loads, the structure should be safe in deflection, in cracking, in fire, etc. Okay, so this I'll summarize this limit state of method. Read here. You can read here. The limit state of method or the method of limit state of design of a structure is defined as a method which limits the structural usefulness of the material of the structure up to a certain load at which the acceptable limits of safety and serviceability are applied so that the failure of the structure does not occur. That is, I will design for the structure in such a way that there won't be any failure up to limit state of I am repeating, up to limit state of collapse, there won't be any failure of the structure and there won't be any problem up to limit state of serviceability. Now, in this method, the structure is designed to withstand. Safely all the loads liable to act on it throughout its lifetime. The design also satisfies the serviceability requirements such as limitation of deflection, cracking, etc. The acceptable limits for safety and serviceability requirements before failure occurs is called as the limit state. That is, just before failure, suppose I am designing a structure, just before failure, the state of the structure is called as your limit state. We will design the structure in such a way that in its lifetime, it won't reach the limit state. Whatever limit state it's being assigned, it won't reach. If it reaches, what will happen? We will say that the structure has failed. So we will design the structure in such a way that it will never, or it will, in its lifetime, it won't reaches its limit state, such that the structure will be safe in what? All the limit state of serviceability as well as the limit state of design. So the primary aim as an engineer is to get a structure that will never reaches its limit state. It is, as an engineer, as a civil engineer, your primary aim is to design a structure which will never reaches its what? Limit state. If that is okay, then it is fine. Okay, is it clear? Is it clear for everyone? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we will stop today's discussion here. We'll stop today's discussion of the live session here, and I will provide you